I want to acquire a new capability that I don't have in my existing skill set or my organization, or if I want to get into a completely new market where I have no presence, aren't these examples of where acquisition is probably a less risky strategy than organic?
You know, we've had some comments about bankers in general, and banking has evolved over the years, and it's more about relationship, and it's not a transactional event for us anymore. So for the business owners, the CEOs in the room, the more of a partnership you build with your banker, the quicker the transaction can go, and they can really be a resource for you. Having said that, I can't tell you how many times, just to dumb this down a little bit, I've had a chemical engineer come in my office announcing that he wants to buy a restaurant. And that's not going to fly. But we work with them, try and talk him through, look at his business plan, you know, why does this make sense, why do you want to do it, and you know, at the end of the day, if they lose the chef, who's going to be doing the cooking? So you take that on a larger scale. I think about like Time Warner and AOL when that merger went through, and I think the intention for Time Warner was to have a presence in the internet market, and lo and behold, you know, dial-up went away, and the you know, DSL and the internet went much quicker. So they weren't paying attention to the opportunity. They tried to get into a new market, and as a result, I believe the stock went down 80%. So there are some pros and cons there. I'm going to share with you, Enterprise Bank started in 1989, and we are a perfect example of organic growth. We now have 19 branches, and you know, we started the company in a similar economy. We were joking about how the Wayne Towers sold for $500,000 back then, which is unbelievable to me. Why didn't I get in on that deal? And we did do acquisition. We did a little bit of that because it made sense. But at the end of the day, what George Duncan did, the founder of the company, was he said, A, I think I could do banking better. B, I'm going to set the culture right up front. Here are the expectations. You're going to be involved in the community. We're going to hire the correct people to be on the bus. And we're not going to go into a market unless it makes sense. I can think of a couple of communities that I thought we would move into. We did some research. We were ready to make an offer on the building. And what we found out is that we didn't have the right human resources in that community. There were not the correct commercial lenders, branch management staff, people that knew that community, and we would have set ourselves up to fail. So we pulled out of the deal. I think that Jack Clancy, the CEO now and president, he talks about organic growth often, and we're now up to almost 400 employees. By taking our time, having $1.5 billion in assets, and just taking and seizing opportunity as we see it. So yes, there is some risk into going into a new market. If you go slow and steady, I think organic growth is the way to go on that.
I think if you're running your business on a day-to-day basis and you are not looking at diversifying, that you are creating risk. You can make the best buggy whip in the world, but if there's no market for a buggy whip anymore, you're just not going to be able to survive. My personal experience, again, when I got into the aircraft de-icing business, I did it as a result of the aircraft loading and unloading business that we were providing. I saw some of the airlines going away. I wanted to create another service, so decided to diversify the company through acquisition into the aircraft de-icing business. That company today is about 3 times the size of the aircraft loading and unloading business. So it works, but either way, whether you do it through organic growth or acquisition, you really need to kind of always be looking at what's going on as your industry evolves, right? Because if not, you're just going to end up eventually losing market share and going away.
For anybody who is considering acquisition as a growth strategy, you don't do it until you have a well put together strategic plan. It has to fit into your strategy. There has to be a reason behind it, not just I want to grow fast. It doesn't work that way. So you have to do all of that effort up front. And you could even get along fairly far in the process and still decide this doesn't feel right. So it's got to be a decision that's made very smartly. The majority of companies I know that are small, privately held companies have been very, very successful with their acquisitions. Sal's a perfect example. You take your time. You know when it's the right time to do it and when not to do it.
That's right. In terms of the expansion of his own business, he went into a complementary sector. I recently was contacted by a medical waste management company that wanted to get into the software business. And I was thinking, huh? It made no sense to me, but they just had a lot of money and they thought software was a good place to be, but they had no talents, they had no infrastructure, they had no customer base that they were going to sell to other than, I guess, the medical waste management guys. And so that makes absolutely no sense versus what Sal's approach is, you know, expand your business either through organically or through an acquisition into something you know how to run.
I'm drawing a blank on the book that I read that scared the heck out of me about globalization. What is it? The World is Flat, right? And I forget who the author was. I would recommend everybody read that and then go build a shelter. It is scary. What's interesting, you know, what I find about, what's interesting about globalization is that, you know, it's created a new saga for us here in the United States. We can look at it through fearful glasses, or we can take the opportunity to do what we always do best, and that's band together and compete against, you know, the rest of the world in a friendly fashion. As it relates to growth, you know, this is one area where I think strategic partnerships are important, and that, you know, there's an opportunity to partner with other folks globally and have the benefit of their experience within their culture. So we go back to culture again when you talk about that. I'm a naturalized citizen from Canada. Two different cultures, New England versus, you know, I grew up in Toronto. It's mind-boggling to me, you know, in the construction industry is how us as New Englanders, and I can call myself a New Englander now, are so restrictive on using new technology in construction. Everywhere else in the world we use new technologies. Isn't it ironic that the place where the Pilgrims landed, they took that, you know, got on the boat in England and ventured across uncharted waters and landed here, but were afraid to try a new technology in construction. It's really mind-boggling. But, you know, I just wanted to make another point about organic growth. You know, as far as entering new marketplaces go, there is tremendous talent out there that's waiting to be hired. And that, you know, regardless of whether you acquire a company, but the opportunity lies to organically enter new marketplaces by hiring the right talent, people that are experts in their field. You can certainly go out and find those folks, and they don't have to be unemployed. I always want to hire the winners. I want the folks that are gainfully employed, that are the superstars from their area of expertise. There's opportunity to grow there. And I have to believe that globally, that opportunity exists as well. Who are the superstars in the other countries that we can gainfully employ and take advantage of their experience and expertise?